I co-signed an $80,000 loan for my best friend. He declared bankruptcy and disappeared. I spent 2 years hunting him down. He wasn't expecting what I brought with me. Posted to r/nuclear revenge. I never thought I'd be posting something like this. For 2 years, I've been living a nightmare that started with a single phone call. Now that it's finally over, I need to get this off my chest. Maybe it'll help someone else avoid the same mistake. Maybe I just need to process what happened. Either way, here's my story. The call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March when my phone rang. I was at work, finishing up a project, when I saw an unfamiliar number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. "Hello, am I speaking with the account holder?" A woman's voice, professional and clipped. "This is he." "Who's calling?" "Sir, I'm calling from First National Bank regarding your business loan account. I'm reaching out because you're currently 3 months behind on your payments, and we need to discuss your options before this goes to collections." I laughed. Actually laughed. There must be some mistake. I don't have a business loan. There was a pause. I could hear typing. "Sir, according to our records, you co-signed for an $80,000 business loan 3 years ago. The primary borrower has defaulted on the account. As the co-signer, you're now legally responsible for the full remaining balance." The world stopped spinning. I felt my stomach drop through the floor. That can't be right. The primary borrower, he's been making payments. He told me. "Sir, the primary borrower declared bankruptcy 8 months ago. His obligation was discharged. Yours was not. The current balance, including late fees and accumulated interest, is $73,847.62. We've been sending notices to your address for the past 3 months." I hadn't seen any notices. Later, I'd find out they'd been going to my old apartment, the one I'd moved out of 6 months prior. The one whose address was on the original loan documents. The one my best friend knew I'd left. "I need to call you back," I managed to say. "Sir, I strongly recommend we discuss payment options today. If this goes to collections." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I pulled up my contact list and found his name. My best friend since college. The guy who'd been the best man at my wedding. The guy I would have taken a bullet for. The number was disconnected. I tried his work number. Disconnected. I opened Facebook. His profile was gone. Instagram. Gone. LinkedIn. Gone. In that moment, sitting in my office cubicle with my heart pounding in my ears, I realized the truth. My best friend had vanished. And he'd left me holding an $80,000 bomb. Update 1. The backstory. How I became a fool. To understand how I ended up here, you need to understand our friendship. We met freshman year of college, 2 scared kids from similar backgrounds. His dad walked out when he was young. My parents divorced when I was 12. We bonded over that shared pain, over late-night conversations about proving everyone wrong, about making something of ourselves. For 12 years, he was my brother. Not by blood, but by choice. We graduated together, struggled together, celebrated each other's wins. When I got promoted, he threw me a party. When his mom got sick, I drove 6 hours to be there. That's who we were. 3 years ago, he came to me with an idea. A business opportunity he'd been researching for months. He wanted to open a specialty outdoor equipment store, high-end camping gear, hiking equipment, that sort of thing. He had a location picked out, suppliers lined up, a business plan that actually looked solid. "The market's there," he told me over beers at our usual spot. "I've done the research. REI is too expensive, the local shops are garbage. There's a gap, and I can fill it." I believed him. He'd always been the smarter one, the one with the head for business. I was just an engineer who liked numbers but didn't have his vision. The problem was the loan. Banks wouldn't give him $80,000 without a co-signer. His credit was decent but not great, some old credit card debt from his 20s that still haunted his score. He needed someone to vouch for him. "I'll never miss a payment," he promised me. We were sitting on my back porch, the summer sun setting behind the trees. His eyes were earnest, almost pleading. "You'll never hear from the bank. I promise you that. This is my dream, man. I've never asked you for anything like this before." He was right. In 12 years of friendship, he'd never asked me for money. Never borrowed and not paid back. Never given me a single reason to doubt him. I co-signed because that's what friends do. He promised I'd never hear from the bank. The bank calls me every day now. I signed those papers without hesitation. I trusted him completely. I didn't even read the fine print about what would happen if he defaulted. Why would I? He was my best friend. He wouldn't let me down. The first year went well. At least, that's what he told me. The store opened to decent fanfare. He sent me pictures of the grand opening, customers browsing the racks, the big open sign in the window. I was proud of him. Then the updates became less frequent. When I asked how things were going, he'd wave it off. Growing pains, he'd say. Normal stuff. Inventory issues. Learning curve. I offered to help with the books. I'm good with numbers. He declined. I've got an accountant. Don't worry about it. Investing in the future, he told me 6 months later when I noticed he seemed stressed. You've got to spend money to make money, right? I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded to see the financials, to understand where my $80,000 guarantee was going. But I trusted him. That word keeps coming back, doesn't it? Trust. The most expensive word in my vocabulary. The business failed 18 months after it opened. He didn't tell me. I found out from a mutual friend who'd driven past the empty storefront. When I called him, he sounded exhausted. It's over, man. I tried everything. The market shifted, Amazon killed us, the rent increases. It just didn't work out. What about the loan? I asked, my first real moment of fear. I'm working with the bank. I've got it handled. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Those 4 words cost me everything. Update 2. The disappearance and devastation. What he didn't tell me was that he was already planning to declare bankruptcy. He'd consulted with lawyers, done the math, figured out his exit strategy. And here's the thing about bankruptcy I didn't know until it was too late. When the primary borrower declares bankruptcy, their obligation to the loan is discharged. The debt is wiped from their slate. But the co-signer? The co-signer's obligation remains. The bankruptcy doesn't protect them. The co-signer is still on the hook for every single penny. He declared bankruptcy and walked away clean. I couldn't declare bankruptcy. I had assets, a job, things to lose. So I lost them slowly instead. The timeline of his betrayal became clear later. He filed for bankruptcy 3 months after closing the store. At no point did he call me, text me, or send me so much as an email warning me what was coming. He simply handled his problems and left me to deal with mine. Then he disappeared. The disconnected phone numbers. The deleted social media. The move to another state without telling anyone vanishing act. It wasn't sudden. I learned later he'd been planning it for months. He sold what he could, stored what he couldn't, and slipped away to start fresh. Meanwhile, my life fell apart. The bank was relentless. After that first phone call, they became a constant presence in my life. Letters arrived weekly. Phone calls came daily. When I couldn't pay the full amount, because who has $74,000 lying around, they went after my wages. My credit score went from 780 to 520 because I trusted my best friend. I can't rent an apartment. I can't get a car loan. I'm 31 years old and I'm financially destroyed. Do you know what it's like to watch your credit score drop 50 points a month while you scramble to figure out what to do? To sit across from a bankruptcy attorney who tells you that declaring bankruptcy yourself won't help because you have too many assets, too stable a job, too much to lose? That you're stuck in that terrible middle ground where you're too financially stable to escape but too financially ruined to function? I had to move out of my apartment when my lease ended. No landlord would approve me with that credit score. I moved into a friend's basement. A friend, I should mention, who is not the same best friend from this story. At 31 years old, I was living in someone's basement because my best friend stabbed me in the back. My car broke down. I couldn't get a loan for a new one. I bought a 15-year-old Honda off Craigslist for $2,000 because it was the only thing I could pay for in cash. The wage garnishment started 6 months after that first phone call. 25% of my paycheck, gone before I ever saw it. I was working a full-time engineering job and struggling to afford groceries. I tried to reach him. God, I tried. I called every number I could find, messaged every mutual friend, even reached out to his mother, but she said she hadn't heard from him in months either and didn't know what I was talking about regarding any loan. I was alone. Abandoned. Betrayed by someone I would have trusted with my life. And then I got angry. Update 3. The Hunt. Anger is a powerful motivator. But I didn't let it make me stupid. I knew that showing up at his doorstep, if I could even find him, and causing a scene would accomplish nothing except maybe getting me arrested. So I channeled that anger into something productive. I started digging. First, I hired a private investigator. It wasn't cheap, $1, $500 I had to scrape together over 3 months of eating ramen and skipping every expense I could. But it was worth it. Within 6 weeks, the PI had his new address. He'd moved to another state. A fresh start in a new city where no one knew about his failed business or his abandoned responsibilities. He was renting a nice apartment, had a new car, and, this is the part that made my blood boil, had started a new business. I found his new business on LinkedIn. He's a successful entrepreneur now. His bio talks about learning from failure. He learned. I'm still paying for his lesson. A marketing consultancy. He was selling himself as a business expert, someone who could help other entrepreneurs avoid common pitfalls. His website featured testimonials from satisfied clients. His LinkedIn profile had over 500 connections. He was positioning himself as a success story. The rage I felt reading that profile was indescribable. I was drowning in his debt while he built a new empire on the ashes of the one he'd burned down. But I didn't act on that rage. Not yet. Because the PI had given me something else, a name. The accountant who'd helped him with his original business. The one who'd prepared his loan documents. I hired an attorney. Another expense I couldn't afford, but I put it on a payment plan. I explained my situation, showed him all the documentation I had, and asked if there was anything I could do. The loan documents, he said, flipping through the copies. Do you remember what he submitted when he applied? I shook my head. I just signed where they told me to sign. I'm going to need the original application. The bank should have it. If there's anything irregular. Getting those documents took 4 months. I had to file a formal request, provide identification, prove I was the cosigner. The bank didn't want to cooperate, they just wanted their money, but my attorney knew how to push. When the documents finally arrived, we found it. The income he'd reported on the loan application was inflated by nearly $40,000. He'd claimed to have assets he didn't own. And the business projections he'd submitted were based on market research that didn't exist, fabricated data designed to make his venture look more viable than it was. This is fraud, my attorney said, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt hope. What does that mean for me? It means his bankruptcy discharge might not protect him. Fraud debts aren't dischargeable. If we can prove he committed fraud in obtaining this loan, we can pursue him personally for the full amount. And possibly more. I spent the next 8 months building the case. We tracked down the accountant, who, after being confronted with evidence that implicated him, agreed to provide testimony about what he knew. We documented every lie on that application. We built a timeline showing how he'd planned his exit strategy while keeping me in the dark. And then, when we had everything we needed, I went to find him. Update 4. The confrontation. The drive to his new city took 11 hours. I could have flown, but I needed the time. Time to think. Time to prepare myself for seeing him again. Time to make sure I didn't lose my composure and ruin everything we'd built. His new business was in a nice area. Trendy, lots of foot traffic, the kind of place successful people worked. When I walked in, a receptionist greeted me with a professional smile. Welcome. Do you have an appointment? I'm here to see the owner. Tell him an old friend is here. She looked uncertain but picked up the phone. A moment later, he emerged from a back office. He looked surprised to see me. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Surprised. Like I was a ghost from a past life he'd already forgotten. Hey! He said it with actual enthusiasm, like I was a pleasant surprise. What are you doing here? I didn't know you were in town. He moved toward me like he was going to hug me. Like we were still buddies. Like he hadn't destroyed my life and walked away without a backward glance. I stepped back. We need to talk. His smile faltered slightly. Sure. Come on back to my office. We can catch up. His office was nice. Modern furniture, awards on the wall, a view of the street below. The office of someone who was doing well. The office paid for by clients who trusted him to help their businesses, the same way I trusted him. So what's going on? He asked, settling into his chair with that easy confidence I remembered so well. How'd you find me? I've been meaning to reach out, but things have been crazy with the new business. Stop. My voice was flat. Don't do that. Do what? Act like nothing happened. Act like you didn't disappear. Act like you haven't been hiding from me for 2 years. Something shifted in his expression. A flash of something. Discomfort? Guilt? It was gone too fast to identify. Look, I know the business didn't work out. It was a tough time for me, and I needed to. A tough time for you? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. You declared bankruptcy and walked away. I'm the one who's been paying for your failure for the last 2 years. The loan. He had the audacity to look confused. I thought the bankruptcy handled all that. It handled your obligation. Not mine. I'm the co-signer. I'm legally responsible for every penny you borrowed. Did you not know that? Or did you just not care? Silence. He couldn't meet my eyes. The bank has been garnishing my wages for 18 months. My credit is destroyed. I'm living in a friend's basement because I can't rent an apartment. I'm 31 years old and I'm financially ruined. Because I trusted you. He shifted in his chair. I didn't know it would affect you like that. I thought. You thought what? That $80,000 would just disappear. That the bank would forget about it. That I wouldn't notice when they started taking a quarter of my paycheck. I'm sorry, he said, and he actually sounded like he might mean it. I was in a bad place. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just needed to get away and start fresh. You needed to start fresh. What about me? You didn't think to warn me? To call me? To give me any heads up that my life was about to be destroyed? I should have called. I know. I kept meaning to, but the longer I waited, the harder it got. And then I thought maybe you'd moved on, maybe the bank had worked something out. The bank worked something out, all right. They worked out that I would pay. Every single month. While you were up here building your new business. He ran a hand through his hair. What do you want me to say? I messed up. I'm sorry. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. Would you? Really? Because from where I'm sitting, you've done pretty well for yourself. Nice office. New business. You learned from failure, right? That's what your LinkedIn says. You learned. I'm still paying for your lesson. He had nothing to say to that. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything he'd broken. So what now? He finally asked. Are you here to yell at me? Threaten me? I don't have $80,000 sitting around, if that's what you're thinking. I smiled. It was the first genuine smile I'd had in 2 years. I'm not here to yell at you. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to introduce you to someone. I walked to the office door and opened it. A woman in a sharp gray suit stood up from the reception area. This is my attorney, I said. And she has some very interesting things to tell you about your loan application. Update 5. The consequences. I wish I could describe his face in that moment. The way the color drained from his cheeks. The way his easy confidence shattered like glass. My attorney sat down across from him, opened her briefcase, and spread documents across his desk. The loan application. The income verification. The business projections. All of it. 3 years ago, you applied for an $80,000 business loan, she began. On this application, you claimed an annual income of $87,000. According to your tax returns from that year, your actual income was $51,000. Can you explain that discrepancy? He was silent. You also claimed to own assets including a rental property that, according to public records, you never owned. You submitted business projections based on market research that doesn't appear to exist from any legitimate source. Would you like to comment? My accountant prepared those documents. Your accountant has already provided testimony about what happened. He's confirmed that you instructed him to inflate the numbers. He's also confirmed that you told him the co-signer, my client, would never know about any of this because he just trusted you. He looked at me with something like desperation. This was years ago. It doesn't matter now. Actually, it does matter. My attorney's voice was ice. Fraud debts are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. When you committed fraud to obtain this loan, you negated the protection that bankruptcy provided. The original debt, plus interest, plus my client's documented damages, plus legal fees, you're now personally liable for all of it. What? What does that mean? It means my client can pursue civil action against you. Your current business, your assets, potentially your personal property, all of it can be subject to judgment. It means we can request a court order for wage garnishment, just like what my client has been experiencing. It means the fraud charges themselves could be referred to law enforcement if you make this difficult. He turned to me. You can't do this. We were friends. We were friends. I cut him off. You had 2 years to reach out. 2 years to help. 2 years to be a man and face what you did. You chose to hide. You chose to pretend I didn't exist while I struggled to keep my head above water. You chose to build a new life while my old one burned. I can't afford. If you take everything, then you'll know how it feels. The words came out cold, and I meant every one of them. You'll know what it's like to work and have the money taken before you see it. You'll know what it's like to have your credit destroyed. You'll know what it's like to lose everything because someone you trusted didn't care about the consequences. Please. His voice cracked. There has to be another way. We can work something out. I can pay you back over time. You had time. You had 2 years. You used them to hide. My attorney stood and began gathering the documents. We'll be filing the suit next week. You'll receive official notification at this address. I strongly suggest you retain counsel. I stood too. This was it. The moment I'd imagined for 2 years. You know what the worst part is? I said, pausing at the door. It's not the money. Money can be earned back. Credit can be rebuilt. The worst part is that I would have helped you. If you'd called me when the business was failing, if you'd been honest with me, if you just told me what was happening, I would have helped you figure it out. We could have faced it together. That's what friends do. He said nothing. Just sat there, looking small. But you didn't see me as a friend. You saw me as a tool. Someone whose trust you could use and discard when you were done with it. And that I can't forgive. I walked out of his office, out of his building, into the sunshine of a city he'd fled to. And for the first time in 2 years, I could breathe. Final update. Justice and lessons. The lawsuit was filed. The case was strong. After 6 months of legal proceedings, we reached a settlement, not the full amount, but significant. He had to liquidate substantial assets to pay it. His business took a major hit. His credit, ironically, was now destroyed, just like mine had been. But more than the money, it was about accountability. It was about consequences. It was about showing him, and myself, that you can't escape what you've done just by running away. The garnishment on my wages has ended. I'm slowly rebuilding my credit. I moved out of the basement and into a small apartment. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. The road ahead is still long, but I can see the end of it now. I've thought a lot about this experience. About trust. About friendship. About the difference between real relationships and convenient ones. And I've come to some conclusions. I was naive. I signed those papers because I believed in someone, but I never protected myself. I never read the fine print. I never considered what would happen if things went wrong. That's on me. Trust doesn't mean blindness. Real friends understand boundaries. Real friends don't ask you to put yourself at risk without making sure you understand what you're risking. I've also learned that accountability matters. That the justice system, for all its flaws, can work if you're willing to fight for it. That anger, channeled correctly, can be a tool for good rather than destruction. I could have showed up at his door and caused a scene. I could have made threats. I could have done something I'd regret. Instead, I did the work. I built the case. I let the system do what it's designed to do. He taught me an expensive lesson: never co-sign for anyone. No matter how much you trust them. No matter how certain you are. Never put your financial future in someone else's hands. But I taught him one too: you can't outrun your debts forever. Eventually, they find you. Some people have asked if I feel bad for him now. If seeing him brought low gave me joy or guilt. The answer is neither, really. I feel closure. He made choices. He faced consequences. That's how life works. I didn't destroy him, his own actions did. I just made sure he couldn't hide from them anymore. If you're reading this and you're thinking about co-signing for someone, don't. I don't care if it's your best friend, your sibling, your parent. Don't do it. Love them, support them, help them in other ways. But don't put your name on their debt. Because if things go wrong, they'll walk away, and you'll be the one left standing in the wreckage. And if you're reading this and someone trusted you enough to co-sign, and you're thinking about walking away, don't. Face your problems. Talk to them. Work it out together. Because betrayal doesn't disappear. It waits. And eventually, it comes for you. I'm 33 now. 2 years older than when this nightmare began. Wiser. More cautious. But also stronger. I survived something that could have broken me. I fought back when I could have given up. And I won. Not a total victory. I'll never get back those 2 years. I'll never get back the friendship I thought I had. But I got justice. And sometimes, that's enough. Thanks for reading. May you never need to learn these lessons the way I did. TLDR, co-signed an $80,000 loan for my best friend. His business failed, he declared bankruptcy and disappeared, leaving me with the debt. Spent 2 years hunting him down. Found him living large in another state with a new business. But I'd also found evidence he committed fraud on the loan application. Showed up with a lawyer. Fraud debts aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. He's now facing everything I faced, and worse. Never co-sign for anyone. Edit. RIP my inbox. To answer the common questions. 1. Yes, I have all documentation. 2. No, I don't feel guilty. He had every opportunity to make this right. 3. Yes, my attorney was worth every penny. 4. No, we will never speak again. Edit 2. For those asking about the legal specifics, every state is different, but fraud in obtaining a loan is generally grounds for challenging a bankruptcy discharge. If you're in a similar situation, consult with an attorney who specializes in bankruptcy fraud. The statute of limitations varies, so don't wait. Here's what I learned about trust. It doesn't mean blindness. Real friends understand boundaries. Real friends don't ask you to put yourself at risk without making sure you understand what you're risking. I co-signed because that's what friends do. He promised I'd never hear from the bank. The bank calls me every day now. He declared bankruptcy and walked away clean. I couldn't declare bankruptcy. I had assets, a job, things to lose. So I lost them slowly instead. My credit score went from 780 to 520 because I trusted my best friend. I can't rent an apartment. I can't get a car loan. I'm 31 years old and I'm financially destroyed. I found his new business on LinkedIn. He's a successful entrepreneur now. His bio talks about learning from failure. He learned. I'm still paying for his lesson. But I didn't give up. I hired a PI. I hired a lawyer. I found evidence he committed fraud on the loan application, inflated income, fake assets, fabricated data. Fraud debts aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. I showed up at his office with my attorney. He looked surprised to see me. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Surprised. Like I was a ghost from a past life he'd already forgotten. He begged for mercy. I said, "You had 2 years to reach out. 2 years to help. 2 years to be a man. You chose to hide. Now face the consequences." He taught me an expensive lesson: never co-sign for anyone. But I taught him one too: you can't outrun your debts forever. Eventually, they find you.